There's a lot of construction going on outside of our building. But with that being said, the key term here is construction because now it comes to constructing a new team as the NBA season is over for the Miami Heat. Well, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh all questioning and have that early termination option in their contract. Now it's can they rebuild and do it all over again? The chance of them getting a three-peat was nice, but got beat by the Spurs, mainly because of Kawhi Leonard, who becomes the third youngest Finals MVP to ever do it. Only other two that did it, Magic Johnson, who I think did it twice, and Tim Duncan, his own teammate. And where does this put Tim Duncan now? We're going to get into that. But for Kevin Durant to come at Kawhi Leonard saying that he's a product of the system, Kevin Durant, I'm not going to say you're wrong or right about that, but I do question you and your team. Maybe you guys need an actual system. I think a little sour grapes on Kevin Durant's part. That's my thing. The Thunder need a system. That's why the Spurs are the championship, because their system works. This is the BS Podcast Show. I'm your host, Brandon Fryer, a.k.a.
The Fry Guys.
That was a great finals, man. I have to admit it myself. Great finals. A little bit shocking, though. We didn't think the Heat was going to go down like that. I mean, a lot of people picked Spurs, Heat. Myself, I picked the Heat. I'm going to stand by it. I picked the Heat in 6 because I thought it was all going to be on Tony Parker, but it just shows that that team was more than just Tony Parker and their big three, because obviously Kawhi Leonard, like I said, won the MVP, and Patty Mills made big shots. Boris Diaw played great defense, and he contributed. Marco Bellinelli. Just so deep. They're about like 9, 10 deep. But with that being said, welcome to another edition of this BS Podcast Show. I'm your host, Brandon Fryer, a.k.a. The Fry Guy. Got my homie Mike Howard in the building. Mike, say what up. What up, man? So we got Mike here in the building. I'm here in the building. Danae cannot be here. She cannot make it. She sent us an email. Let us know she ain't going to make it. But we still going to have a great show with and without her. We'll do it fine. We got my homie Mike here. Great show for y'all. We're going to get more and get in depth of the NBA season, kind of take you to a step ahead and talk about that NBA offseason, because now it officially begins since the Spurs are the 2014 NBA champs. We're also going to get into some local news, talk about Bulls and Bears. You got your ish coming up, halftime. Me and Mike, we're going to debate something. You know, Think Like a Man 2's coming out. Kevin Hart's the king of comedy. But who's next? We're going to get into that too. And we got just a great show for you, man. We got Play of the Game, full of bull. Tons of stuff to get to. And also, I can't forget, got my top BS NBA players right now in the game. We're going up to, 30 to 21. So I'm going to give you half of that coming up later in the show. Great show for you. But before we get into any of that, let's get you caught up with this BS update. And let's start off in golf as Martin Kaymer wins the 2014 U.S. Open. In the NHL, the Los Angeles Kings wins the 2014 Stanley Cup in a second overtime thriller. This is their second Stanley Cup in the past 3 years. In the MLB, Matt Wieters will have Tommy John surgery. He's a catcher for the Baltimore Orioles. And former Padres and Hall of Fame great Tony Gwynn passes away at the age of 54 with his battle with cancer. In the NFL, the Steelers and Marcus Pouncey agrees to a 5-year extension. This deal would make him the highest paid center in the NFL. There's a report that Niners quarterback Colin Kaepernick and 2 other players will not be charged for that Miami hotel incident. Another report is going down in Seattle as Marshawn Lynch is holding out because he wants a new contract and he's considered retirement. I doubt that. New York Giants linebacker John Beeson is out 12 weeks due to a foot injury. The Chiefs cut 2013 Pro Bowl cornerback Brandon Flowers. The Atlanta Falcons are picked for this upcoming season of the HBO series Hard Knocks. Former Steelers head coach Chuck Noll dies at the age of 82. Dallas Clark, who's the tight end, you know him from the Colts, he's actually going to retire as a Colt because he's going to sign with them on Wednesday, and he's going to officially retire. In the NBA, report that Donald Sterling hired a PI firm to dig up dirt on the NBA because he plans to sue them. And there's already been a report that they have found dirt on the NBA. The Clippers named Doc Rivers president of basketball operations, and the Miami Heat lose to the San Antonio Spurs, which makes the San Antonio Spurs this year's 2014 NBA champions. And let's get into that and talk about some offseason in our first quarter. All right. To beat the Heat, or how the Heat was constructed, because we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, which I'm going to get into that a little later. But to beat the Heat, the Spurs showed you how. Even the Mavericks showed you how. You don't necessarily need a superstar. Now, I suggest that overall history, the stats show that mostly superstars, or a team of at least 2 superstars, or I say 2.5 because sometimes it's a big 3, or it's like 2.5 because that third person role is kind of diminished a little bit. You need those type players to at least get to the finals, pretty much, and most likely win it. I mean, look at the Heat. Granted, they went to 4 finals in their whole tenure together. So it shows that you do still need 2 or 2.5 or 3 superstars in order to get to the finals and really compete for an NBA championship. But with that being said, the Spurs showed you how to beat them. Granted, it was team ball. You have to beat them. You got to limit your turnovers, like I said before, and ball movement is the key. You can't just have one superstar keep dribbling the ball nonstop, isolating the ball. All the focus is on you. Isolation basketball is not going to beat the Heat. You got to have ball movement. You got to keep you got to play as a team. You got to keep the ball going. And the Spurs showed that. See, the big 3, the Spurs have a big 3. Ginobili, Parker, Duncan. But Kawhi Leonard stepped up. And the whole team aspect stepped up. Kawhi Leonard won MVP. Played great two-way player, by the way. Great defender. He did the best he could on LeBron. And he showed that once he stepped his game up, the Spurs just took over the whole series, and they was just blowing out the Heat. I mean, they pretty much just lose about like 15 points or more, and all of their losses that the Heat had, just blow them out. It was no close game. And you can argue that the Spurs probably could have swept the Heat if Tony Parker wasn't playing isolation ball, because that game was close, the one that the Heat did win in San Antonio in Game 2. But the game is over. The NBA season's over. The Spurs are the champs. They deserve it. Now the biggest question now goes to the Miami Heat and LeBron James. What will the big 3 do? What will LeBron James do? Will Dwayne Wade take a pay cut? Will Chris Bosh leave the Heat so he can get a bigger role? Will Carmelo Anthony come to the Heat? Will LeBron go to Cleveland? Will he go to New York? Will he go to LA? My opinion, I think he's going to stay in Miami. Miami's tax-free. It's Miami. He might bring Carmelo with him. Maybe Dwayne Wade. I don't know if they're going to have a big 4. I think one of them is going to have to go. Either it's going to be Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. But I do think it might be Carmelo, LeBron, Dwayne Wade. That's just my opinion. I know he probably really don't know what he's going to do. He said at the post-game conference that he don't know what he's going to do. He's not thinking about that right now. Right now, he's, dealing with the loss. I'm pretty sure right now as we're doing this show, he's thinking about it because he has to opt out. I think he has to, June 29th for him to opt out, which I think they all are going to opt out. And Carmelo Anthony's is coming up as well, which is, I think, June 23rd. So he's going to opt out. I'm pretty sure he's definitely going to opt out. But the question now becomes, what's going to happen this offseason? So I already told you, I think LeBron's going to stay with Miami. I think Dwayne Wade, if I'm betting, is going to stay with Miami. I think Chris Bosh is going to be the one left out. If Carmelo Anthony comes, I think Chris Bosh is gone. If Carmelo Anthony don't come, I think the big 3 will stay intact. Probably take a little more less money so they can build a better team around them. Probably get them a better point guard. Probably get them a center, a little better bench. That's what I think they'll do. That's just my opinion. I think the Miami Heat is going to stay intact, my opinion. But now the NBA offseason is really becoming fun because not only are we learning about LeBron and what he's going to do, now the NBA draft is coming up. And now the interesting offseason begins. NBA draft coming up. Cavs, who's trying to get LeBron too, but they also have to make a decision on that number 1 pick. And all reports are pointing that it's going to be Joel Embiid if his back checks out. If not, Andrew Wiggins. But there's already been reports that the 76ers are willing to trade for that number 1 pick to secure themselves of Andrew Wiggins because they really want Andrew Wiggins. And they're even considering giving up Thaddeus Young in order to get the number 1 pick. I think what the Cavs need to do, I would like for them to get Andrew Wiggins or Joel Embiid. Any one of them two, to me, is perfect. I don't think they need Jabari Parker, even though I feel like he's the best NBA prospect ready right now because of his offensive firepower. But Andrew Wiggins is a great defensive player. And I think on the Cavs, they got a lot of me first, shoot first type players. They need an Andrew Wiggins, a guy who can defend, grow into his role, and grow into his offense, and then later dominate. You have a Uncle Drew, Andrew Wiggins, maybe LeBron James. It's a nice squad. Or Uncle Drew, Joel Embiid, and LeBron James. That could be nice. Nice and scary. But also, another interesting story is on Carmelo Anthony. With Carmelo Anthony, the Knicks already said they hired Derek Fisher, Phil Jackson. They had a meeting with him. They're going to say their meeting went well. I mean, what do you expect them to say? You expect them to say, oh, our meeting went horrible? No. Carmelo Anthony is going to opt out. I really believe he's going to opt out. I'll be surprised if he opts in. He's going to opt out. He's going to explore his options. He's already stated that the reports has been the teams that he's interested in is the Bulls and the Rockets. It would be scary offensively for the Rockets if they have probably Chandler Parsons, James Harden, Dwight Howard, and Carmelo Anthony on that team. But I believe for the Rockets to be a championship team, they actually need a point guard. Carmelo Anthony is not their answer. They need a point guard, and they need better defenders. That's what I think they need. But they're interested in Carmelo Anthony. However, the Rockets has been reported to say that they don't believe that they have the assets enough to acquire Carmelo Anthony. Like, do the Knicks want back Jeremy Lin or a Sheik? Do they want them? Maybe you got to give up Chandler Parsons to entice that deal, maybe a sign and trade. And can the Rockets really afford probably close to 3 max players on their team, possibly 4 if you keep Chandler Parsons? Now with the Bulls, we're going to get into them in our second quarter. Now one of my boys, and even Mike asked me this earlier before the show, once the NBA offseason officially began, once the Spurs won the championship, he asked me, do you believe the Bulls have the assets to acquire Carmelo Anthony? And of course they do. I feel like they have the most assets of any team right now in the NBA that can compete right now for a championship. And they have the right assets. You got Jimmy Butler, Taj Gibson. You got the kid from overseas. You got 2 first-round draft picks in this quote-unquote deep NBA draft. You have Mike Dunleavy. You also have, I think, future draft picks. You got the right to swap with Cleveland. You got that Sacramento Kings pick that could turn into a first-round pick if the Kings remain horrible. You got a lot of good assets. You got Tony Snell. You got an expiring contract in Carlos Boozer. So they have the assets. Now, it's up for the Knicks to see if they want to acquire some of those assets. Now, if I'm the Knicks, if you know you're going to lose Carmelo Anthony, why not get something back in return than just cap relief? Get some young, promising players and some draft picks that can help you rebuild quicker than just being stuck in purgatory mode or NBA hell, as I like to call it. So they do have the assets, and they have more than enough assets where they could probably, this is a very slim chance to me of getting both Carmelo Anthony and Kevin Love. They have the assets to kind of acquire both if they really wanted to. I know they got to really do some crunching and probably change the whole dynamic of the team, but they do have assets to kind of acquire them both with all these assets that they do have. Okay, I hear you though, but here's my question. My question now becomes, if Carmelo Anthony, say, signs with either Houston or Miami, and then Kevin Love, stays in Minnesota or doesn't even go to the Bulls, go to Boston or the Warriors or some other team you never heard of, what's the Bulls' plan next? All right, Mike. Well, to me, then, the Bulls' plans next is when you do exactly what you did that last big summer of 2010. The next thing you do is you build the best team and the deep team that you can build. They did it before when they missed out on LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. They got Boozer. They brought over Ronnie Brewer, Cal Korver. They start building their bench, and I think that's what they do. If you miss out on Carmelo Anthony and you miss out on Kevin Love, then you start building the best team you can. You keep DJ Augustine. You bring over the kid from Spain. You start signing players to make that bench deeper, probably sign some better shooters. You draft the best players that's NBA ready right now to help you get closer to a championship. Even if you amnesty Boozer, you bring in or you try to trade Boozer, you even keep Boozer and try to trade him later, maybe at the trade deadline, to acquire a better player that can help you in the long run. Now, it's going to be a nice long run since NHL and the NBA season's over. I'm kind of stuck in sports hell right now because baseball is cool, but to me, it don't really get jumping until after the All-Star break. I got the World Cup, so I guess I'm going to have to watch some soccer and get into that. But there's nothing really going on for me right now. I'm kind of waiting for football season. So with that being said, the Chicago Bears are holding mandatory mini camps. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's time for a game. Me and Mike, we decided to make a game. It's called Supersize My Fries. And it's where me, the fry guy, make 3 bold predictions for the Chicago Bears as they're about to start their 2014 NFL season. First one, Jordan Palmer will win the backup quarterback job against Jimmy Clausen, Gerard Johnson or whatever that fool name is, and David Fells. However, I do believe David Fells will stay on the squad, probably as a third quarterback or on the practice squad. Next one, Will Sutton will start at defensive tackle along with Jay Ratliff. He will start. I think either it's going to be game 1 or game 2. He will be the starter because I think Stephen Paya is not going to be on the team. Brock Verveen will be the starting safety at the free safety position. I think Chris Conte is going to get cut. I think his surgery and him being injured, is unless he comes out from the surgery and just kills it, I really think Brock Verveen is going to win it. And his partner is going to be Ryan Munley. Those two are going to be the starting safety. I think they're going to be the combo. I really believe that's going to happen by the start of the season. So, those are my 3 predictions in our new game or our new segment called Supersize My Fries. Let's keep the games going. And as we're in halftime, our Out of Bounds segment, we're not going to talk about sports right here. Think Like a Man 2 is coming out. I know I'm going to get dragged to see it. I don't think it's going to be as funny as the first one, but I still think it's going to be funny. But obviously, it's still the year of Kevin Hart. I think it's been going on 2-3 years now for Kevin Hart. He's really right now the top comedian in the game right now. But we're doing a game called the Medal Games, where we're going to get about a gold, silver, and bronze to the comedians that we think are up next to compete with Kevin Hart and maybe knock him out, or who's just right underneath Kevin Hart. It's just trying to get there. Mike, he's going to give you his first. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, bronze, I'm going to give it to D-Ray Davis. Right now, he's hosting the whole, I think it's like a Think Like a Man type of game on the gaming network. I don't know. Silver, I'm giving it to Mike Epps. Mike Epps, to me, has fallen off since Friday. I mean, he does good with his stand-up, but I haven't seen him in anything late. Then, gold, I'm giving it to Little Duval. I feel like he's on the rise. The man got a song out called What That Mouth Do with Trey the Truth. He doing music now. He's on MTV. He got his own show. He's about to be everywhere. And I think black people already knew who he was. But now on MTV, white people are knowing who he is.
Okay, Mike. I'm about to give you mine. Bronze, I'm giving it to Corey Holcomb, Chi-Town. Now, I know you said D-Ray Davis, he got his own show, but Corey Holcomb to me is a guy who's about to be on the rise to me. He's underrated. He does very edgy type of comedy, but I feel like he's on the rise. He does little movies, he's getting little spot roles. I think in time this year, he'll probably have his own show or he'll really have a dominant role on a television show. The silver, I'm giving it to Lil Duval. The reason why I'm giving it to Lil Duval, granted, for all the reasons you said, but I don't think he's right there yet of the guy who I'd give the gold, and that's Mike Epps. Mike Epps, to me, has done comedy. He's done serious roles in some of his movie work. The man has done television, white people know who he is, black people know who he is. He's right there, and he's the only one that's really kind of irritating Kevin Hart. As you know, they had their little battle, going at each other on Twitter. So I think Kevin Hart only sees him as competition. I don't think Kevin Hart sees nobody's competition, but he's the only one that Mike Epps, I feel like, you'll get a reaction from me. I feel like if other comedians came at him, I don't think he'll say much about him. But Mike Epps, he said something about him. So right now, he's my GOAT. All right, it's time for our 2014 BS Top NBA 50 Players right now. We already did about half of them. I'm going to run them down to you. Number 50, Roy Hibbert. 49, Brook Lopez. 48, Paul Millsap. 47, Eric Bledsoe. 46, Ty Lawson. 45, Chandler Parsons. 44, Kemba Walker. 43, Jeff Teague. 42, Joe Johnson. 41, Kawhi Leonard. Number 40, I had DeAndre Jordan. 39, Serge Ibaka. 38, Al Horford. 37, Klay Thomas. 36, Lance Stevenson. 35, Gordon Dragic. 34, Zach Randolph. 33, Paul Gasol. 32, Kyle Lowry. And 31, DeMar DeRozan. Now, I'm only going to give you half. We're at number 30 to 21. But like I said, I'm only going to give you half. The rest you got to check out on my Tumblr page, thefryguybs.tumblr.com. Number 30, I'm giving to Mike Conley. The reason why I feel like he's the true leader and the true force. He's that glue guy of why the Grizzlies run the way they do. I feel like he's one of the most underrated point guards in the game right now. So right now he's number 30. 29 is Andre Drummond. I feel like he's the center of the future. He has the potential to be the best big man in the game. If he could get some post skills, but the man is oozing of raw talent of the Pistons. So right now he's 29. Another guy who has the potential to be the best center in the game is number 28, DeMarcus Cousins. If he could just check his emotions and check his anger, the man has unlimited potential. And he needs to be on a better team. If the Kings start winning and he checks his temper, the man could be the best center in the NBA. 27 is Chris Bosh. This man was once a top 10 NBA player before signing with the Heat. Now, with the Heat, his roles diminished. He's become more of a stretch 4 type of player or a stretch 5 type of player, but he's still one of the best players to me in the NBA. And I feel like if he was on a different team where he was the man, he'll still put up the same type of numbers. So he right now is number 27. 26 is a guy who I feel like is underrated, and that's Big Al Jefferson. The reason why, he went to the Charlotte Bobcats, now the Charlotte Hornets. He went to them and people thought he was crazy. It was just a money grab, but he elevated that team from being pretty much one of basketball's dumps to now a pretty respectable team, as they're now in the playoffs. They reached it. Him and Kemba Walker has really teamed up for a nice combination. They're one more nice little piece from really being very competitive. They're a couple of pieces away, but one more big acquisition and they can be right there. If they get a good draft pick and he erupts, they're going to be right there. So the rest now, you got to go on my Tumblr page, check out the rest so you can see the whole list from 30 to 21. See it all. It's time for my favorite segment. It's called Your Ish. It's where you send me your questions via Twitter at this BS show, and I answer them right here. Like the first question from my man at Carl Kia. He said, with the U.S. winning against Ghana, do you believe now that soccer will be a little more popular in the United States? Yes, I definitely. If Team USA keeps winning, it makes soccer more popular, and that's just how it works. Winning solves everything. Granted, with U.S. winning, they became the top story on SportsCenter. ESPN started talking about them, breaking them down. First Take was breaking down and giving them a segment about it. Now, if USA start losing and they don't go too far, soccer's still going to come irrelevant. But the better soccer gets and the better Team USA gets, the more popular the sport becomes. Next one. Yo, BS this one. What? These names is crazy. Okay. Where does this NBA championship puts Tim Duncan in your opinion? I feel like even before this championship, I feel like Tim Duncan to me is a top 20 NBA player of all time. But I got him right now. He's probably getting to that top 15, edging into that top 10 player of all time, Because right now, I think he's the best power forward in the game of all time. And that's, to me, ahead of Karl Malone and Charles Barkley, the ones I can think of. And obviously, to me, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett. He's the best power forward in the game right now, and I feel like in the history of the NBA. Next one. July Stag says, who you got right now, if we're betting, in the NHL for next season? Okay, I'm going to go with the Blackhawks because I'm from Chicago. That's my team. But I'm going to go with them because I still feel like they have the best chance to win the Stanley Cup. They've pretty much been having the best chance to win it like for the past, 4 or 5 years? But right underneath them, the LA Kings are a team to be reckoned with, and still the Boston Bruins, who always do good in the regular season, but they just, when the playoffs happen, they're right there. But those are my top three. So Blackhawks number one, then right underneath them is the LA Kings. Because I feel like it's just been the Blackhawks and the Kings been winning these Stanley Cups now. And then Boston Bruins right underneath them. Those are my chances right now. If I had to, I'm not going to pick nothing right now, but since you asked me this question, I mean, the season's just over. We're in June now, and you already talked about who's going to win the 2015 Stanley Cup. Like, come on. But if I had to pick, I'm going with the Blackhawks, Kings, and Bruins. My BS player of the game goes to one of my sport icons, the guy who made me love basketball, Michael Jordan. The reason why he has officially become the first athlete or sports billionaire because of his stake in the Charlotte Hornets. I guess the stake went up since they changed the name to the Charlotte Hornets, and now he's officially become the first sports billionaire. And it sucks for this guy because he wanted to become the first sports billionaire, but instead he's gonna get my Full of Bull award, and that's LeBron James. You know, it's not because he didn't know if he wanted to stay in Miami or nothing like that. The one thing that stood to me was when he stated that he didn't do enough for the Heat to win the 2014 NBA championship. To me, I feel like that's full of bull because I feel like he was the only one doing something for the Heat. Where was Dwayne Wade? Where was Chris Bosh? Where was Mario Chalmers? Ray Allen, where are you? Rashad Lewis, where are you? Birdman, what are you doing? I feel like he was the only one that showed up, and it was just like watching the Spurs and the Heat play reminded me when the Spurs played the Cavs when it was led by LeBron, and it was just LeBron and nobody else. And that's what it felt like with the Heat. I feel like LeBron did all he could do. Maybe he should have yelled at his players. That's the only thing the only thing I think he could have did. But what would that do? I feel like nobody on that team besides LeBron James showed up. So LeBron, say that ish for the birds. Do not feed me BS and call it sugar grits because you are full of bull. I want y'all to go on my Tumblr page. That's thefryguyBS.tumblr.com. Go on there and check out. We got the photos of this week. We got the Game of Thrones episode 2. Like, on my Tumblr page, I put the first episode. Now, they got the second episode. You got to check it out. We also got a video of NBA players on Jimmy Kimmel Live reading mean tweets directed towards them. It's hilarious. You got to check that out. We got Lego replicas of some famous sports arenas and stadiums. You got to check that out. And we also got, the Madden cover. Richard Sherman won it. But if the Madden cover was determined by MVPs, how would it look? We got that also on our Tumblr page. And also we got, numbers 30 to 21 of our 2014 BS top NBA 50 players right now. Check that out. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to this week of the BS podcast show. I want to thank Angela Lewis, Devin Washington, Lawrence Holmes, the Game family, you guys for listening, give me your feedback, Mike Howard, Danae, Connor McKnight, just the list goes on and on. Remember, life is a game, so play hard all 4 quarters. It's been another edition of this BS podcast show. I'm your host, Brandon Fryer, a.k.a. The Fry Guy. 2 fingers in the air. Peace. I see you next week, man. Come on, man. What you want to eat, man? I'm kind of in the mood for tacos or some pizza.
We just go for ice cream.
Ice cream? Man, going to ice cream with another man. We're going to lick ice cream together. You out your mind? Get out of here.
Bye-bye.